Arch Advocate Podcast. It's Friday. Man, I've got a lot I want to get to. And for those of you with who aren't suffering from tinnitus, this show will be accompanied by a rooftop drum roll the entire time. There's a lot I want to get to on this show, and listen, when I do these shows, man, I get an idea of what I want to talk about, and I sit down and I just start talking. Sometimes it works out that I talk about what I want to talk about. And sometimes I just follow the thought and I go in a completely different way. So let me tell you what I want to talk about on this show. So that way you can kind of mark it and see if I actually get there or not. I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi's revised travel plans. I think that story it's not only hilarious, it's proverbial. You know what I mean? Like it's there's lessons in there. There's richness in that story. I want to talk about the fact that a girl meaning female adult woman who has never been married nor has ever had children and has never been married, right? A girl who has never had the occupation of a grown-up. She's never had a real job. She's been a bartender. That's a job for kids. It's a job for college kids. Unless you are Sam, from Cheers and you own the bar. Then you're not, then you're a business owner. That's different. But a girl with no children, never been married, not over the age of 30, never had a real job, is now on the congressional financial whatever committee. That's a thing that happened, and there are things to notice in that, right? There's ways to look at that so that it doesn't infuriate you and cause you to stare into the abyss like the demons want you to do. But there's a way to look at that and say, okay, I guess that's where you are here. This is where we are. I want to talk about that. And also, like 2 or 3 days ago, I blurted out, I just kind of, under my breath, I just kind of blurted out like, I wanted to talk about boxers. I don't mean underwear. I don't mean Barber Boxer of California. I mean pugilists, boxers. I said that. You guys might, if you listened to 2-3 days ago, like you might remember me saying that. I really wanted to do that. And then when I woke up this morning, I see Mike Tyson on Joe Rogan. And I am 30 minutes into it. I had to stop because I got to do the show. But, dude, boxers, it's the weirdest thing because you would think these guys would be dopes because they are professional receivers of brain trauma. You would think that boxers would just be like a pile of mush, like vegetables. As soon as they hit like 40, that their brains would just be, that they would just be drooling morons. But it's the strangest thing, man. I'm telling you, if you go through, and I said this last year, like early last year, like you go onto the Jim Rome show, go into the archives, just pull up any interview with a boxer, a professional boxer, not UFC guy, not anything else, just boxers. Listen to any one of them, listen to all of them. Listen to, this thing with Mike Tyson. There's a weird thing that goes on with boxers, man. It's like they are, it's like all boxers are somehow the love child of St. Thomas Aquinas and, Aristotle, Socrates, and those guys. You know what I mean? It's just, like these guys, boxers have a very strange and profound just wisdom, and it just oozes out of them. Like they don't even. It's like prophets. You know what I mean? Like prophets don't like sit around and like try to formulate stuff. They just say stuff, and it just echoes through eternity. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with boxers. Look, I can't qualify the statement. I can't qualify that. You have to go listen to it. Like, listen to Joe Rogan's Mike Tyson interview. Go on to the Jim Rome Show archives just listen to any boxer. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about, man. It's spooky. He used to have this guy lived in my apartment complex. His name was Steve, and he was a famous boxing trainer. And he retired, he quit for some reason, he left Las Vegas and he came to San Diego. I think it had something to do with the mob, because he was Italian, and this was, well, it was in the early 2000s, but I remember me and my good buddy were talking one day, and we were saying, like, I asked him, I'm like, for $1 million, would you let Mike Tyson just punch you in the face? And he's like, oh, of course I would. Like, what am I, some sort of sissy? He's like, well, what would you do? I'd be like, hell no. He's like, what are you talking about? You some sort of sissy? And just as we were talking, Steve walks by, right? Because he lived like very, his door was very close to our, gate, to our front door. Steve's walking by. It's like, oh, Steve, he's a trainer. Like neither of us know boxing as well as this guy, old guy. Yeah, Steve. And my friend asked him, like it wasn't me. He's like, hey, Steve, for $1 million, would you get in the ring, with Mike Tyson? And Steve's like, well, of course I would, of course. And I said, no. That's not what I said. I didn't say get in the ring with him. I said, let Mike Tyson punch you in the face and leave it to his discretion as to how hard he wants to punch you. And Steve goes, no, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? You would die. Like a normal person who is not a professional boxer, even a professional boxer wouldn't do that. Like when you're boxing, like those boxers, like he would kill you. You would die. Like, you guys, you two boys, both of you would, if Mike Tyson punched you, you would die. I said, okay, see, I was right. Anyways, I don't know why I just told you that story. Old Steve. Anyways, what I really want to talk about too, and I'm going to get on this, is the meaning of the word discipline. Discipline. That's discipline. Discipline. It's the word where we get the word disciple from. Disciple is spelled D-I-S-C-I-P-L with no I-N-E. Just E. No, no I-L. Discipline. Disciple. Same word. But first, I'm going to read your daily devotional, as I will every single day this year. This is by Sarah Young. This particular devotional book, there are many, and I'm sure they're all good. And if you can't find this one, pick up My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. But this one was written by Sarah Young, a former missionary. The name of this one is called Jesus Calling, and it is written in the first person. And today is a doozy. By the way, I was thinking this morning as I was making my coffee, getting ready to read the daily devotional to my wife. Hadn't read it yet, and I was already thinking about discipline. And what does it mean? What does it mean to be a disciple? What does discipline really mean? Like, how do you encourage somebody to take up a new discipline? Thinking about that sort of thing, and I open this up, and this is what I read. Tell me how fitting this is. Tell me how provisional, this is. It's always timely. Hope you enjoy the sound of the raindrops. I am leading you along the high road, but there are descents as well as ascents, ups and downs. I'm leading you along the high road, but there are many ups and downs. In the distance, you will see snow-covered peaks glistening in the brilliant sunlight. Your longing to reach those peaks is good, but you must not take shortcuts. Your assignment is to follow me and allow me to direct your path. Let the heights beckon you onward, but stay close to me. Learn to trust me when things go wrong, quote unquote. Disruptions to your routine highlights your dependence on me. Trusting acceptance of trials brings blessings that far outweigh them all. Walk hand in hand with me this day. I have lovingly planned every inch of the way. Trust does not falter when the path becomes rocky and steep. Breathe big, heavy breaths deep of my presence. Hold tightly to my hand. Together we can make it. Actually, what it says is breathe deep drafts of my presence. Breathe in deep that presence. And hold tightly to my hand, and together we can make it. Discipline. You know, there's a tendency to describe things and to think of things in terms of levels, right? And you look at you look at guys, you know, the aforementioned guys like Ravi Zacharias, right? He's a profound scholar, theologian, right? That guy gets it. And he has a wonderful way of teaching. And the tendency is to look at a guy like that and think like, oh man, he's on a whole nother level. It's very easy to think that way, right? Like you and I and everybody, you know, everybody's in an economic class, right? Some guys make 20 grand a year, some guys make 60, some guys make 200 grand a year, some guys make millions of dollars a year. You might look at a guy like Warren Buffett or, you know, whoever, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. You might look at those guys and think like, oh, they're on a whole other level. But there are no levels. It's erroneous to think of things that way. The way that C.S. Lewis described it is that there's not levels, there's chambers. Right? You have to think of it as chambers. There's not levels. You're not leveling up. I'm not above you. I'm not beneath you. I'm just in a different chamber. And everybody's in a different chamber. And sometimes you might bump into, you know, the way C.S. Lewis describes it is that life is like a hallway, right? There's all these different doors. And you'll meet people in the hallway, and then you'll go into one chamber and you'll learn something there. And then you'll come back into the hallway and you can stay there as long as you want. And then there's another doorway that says, you know, here, come learn this. And you go in there and you learn that. And you might bump into some of the same people that you saw in other chambers. You might bump into some of the people that you saw in the hallway. And when you do that, it'll make you feel a little bit less alone. But ultimately, it's not levels; it's chambers. And that's a good way to think of it when approaching discipline, becoming a disciple, discipline, discipling. Disciple means one who is disciplined. And a discipline, if I can read from the Cambridge English, I was trying to find. Unfortunately, discipline, this is why you have to, if you can, go to garage sales and buy the oldest dictionaries that you can. Because, the thing is as time goes on and now with the internet and everything, the meanings of words are starting to change in a way that is inappropriate. Like if you look up discipline, you're going to see oh, it means to treat somebody, to punish somebody or whatever. It's like, no, that's not what discipline is. That's not what discipline is. If you go and you buy yourself a bow and arrow, or a bow and some arrows and a target and all that, and you start practicing, archery is a discipline. It's not a punishment, it's a discipline. It's an art. It takes discipline. It takes practice and study and bloody fingers. You're gonna bloody up your fingers pretty good. You're probably gonna bloody up your forearm on your left hand if you're right-handed. It's discipline. Being a chef, cooking delicious food, it's discipline. Not everybody can do it. Driving a race car, making money, being a husband, wife, being a father or mother, discipline. It's a discipline. It's an art. Takes a lot of practice, and you're never done. You're never done. You will never, once you endeavor to do something, you will never be a master of it. People may call you a master of it. You may be the best in the world at it, but you're never going to master it. Just because you're the best in the world at something does not mean you've mastered it. It just means that nobody else has been so long in the chamber as you have. But here's one definition of discipline as a noun, and I really hope that the raindrops are not too loud. But it says a training that makes people more willing to obey or more able to control themselves, often in the form of rules and punishments if these are broken, or the behavior produced by this training. So it's close. But, discipline, it's like, the Marine Corps is an easy one for me. I look at that. The thing about discipline is that the student, the disciple, not only has to be willing, but he himself has to seek it out. Right? When Jesus said, go out and make disciples of men, and he was saying, just go out there and find the people that are going to come up to you and say, hey, teach me your ways. It doesn't mean go and subdue people and subject them to slavery and start to like, oh, you better do it this way or else you're going to go to hell for it. It's like, no. Jesus walked up to his disciples and said, hey, come follow me. They had every right to look at Jesus and be like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, crazy homeless, guy that has no money. I'm good. He walked up to Levi the tax collector and said, hey, come follow me. You know who I am. Come follow me. Matthew could have been like, dude, I'm making lots of money. I've got, super hot girlfriends. All the fancy people in town, they're all my friends. I'm good, Jesus. He could have said that. It was absolutely his right to say that, but he didn't. He got up as an act of his own will and said, yeah, I accept. The Marine Corps came to me when I was 16, 17 years old. Hey, how'd you like to be a Marine? We will come follow us. And I said, oh yeah, I'll do that. And I went and followed. And I subjected myself to what's called indoctrination. I learned the doctrine of the United States Marine Corps, but I did it willingly. It was an act of will. And there, they stripped me of my original identity. They removed my clothing. They removed my hair. And they put me in the clothing that they wanted me to wear. And the first thing they taught me how to do was how to walk. That's right. Marching. It's just a fancy word for walking. You walk this way now. You walk like a man now. You walk the same way in the presence of your brothers. That's the first thing they teach you, how to walk. And in so doing, you learn how to take orders. People think that the Marine Corps is just that they just teach you killing or something like. I don't know what people think about the Marine Corps. I don't know what people think that they teach you in Marine Corps boot camp, but it's 3 solid months of just learning how to take orders immediately. And you learn by the end of that, by the end of 3rd phase, you learn like, oh no, this is for my protection. The faster I can respond to the order once it's given, the more safe I will be. The more safe the men around me will be. And as long as we can all fulfill that order at the same time and immediately, the safer we're all going to be. And that's why the Marines are so effective at killing. Because war is not, it's not what you think. It's not like in the movies. It's chaos. It's absolute chaos. And it's the horrors of it. You know what I mean? It's whoever it was who said, war is hell. Like, that was not a platitude. He was saying, like, look, you go to war, like you go to Vietnam, you go off to war there, and Ho Chi Minh has got stacks and stacks, piles of the body parts of children that he left there to send you a signal like, this is what we're capable of. This is who you're fighting. People that are capable of doing this, you better think about if you want to fight us or not. You have any idea what that would do to the psyche of 18 to 20-year-old kids? that have just been thrown into a jungle and said, listen, those are the enemy, they're communists, we gotta go get them. We gotta save these people of North Vietnam. Do you have any idea what that would do to your soul? To see something like that? And how that would change you? And how that might change what you see as being acceptable? How that might change what you might see as like being what you need to do to fight? What lengths you might need to go to impress upon your enemy to stop fighting? It's crazy, it's hell. That's why he said war is hell. Because you see things and it's like, it's gonna change you. Not for the better. It's crazy. Anyways, discipline. And chambers. There's disciplines that when Jesus said go out and make disciples, that would tell you that if you want to be a follower of Jesus, then you need to be a disciple. The disciples followed Jesus. That's what they did. I mean, that's their, as crazy as things were, for those men, they kept following Jesus no matter what. For the most part. But it kind of lends itself to thinking, to the thought of, well, if you haven't been discipled, if you can't name the man who discipled you, there's a pretty good chance you've not been disciplined. You've not learned the disciplines. And I have varying thoughts on whether you actually have to have somebody, but I can tell you this, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's infinitely easier if somebody who knows what they're talking about teaches you. It's infinitely easier. The guy that discipled me many years ago, his name was Mark Hoffman. He's a pastor, and he discipled me and a group of other men all together, and I learned a great deal. I've had other guys disciple me, and I can tell you, if you don't have somebody in your life, go to, find somebody that you know somewhat, and somebody who is the oldest man you know. The older the better, the closer to the grave the better. And that man has to have been married to one wife the entire time, and raised his kids, and sent them off into the world, and those kids need to be squared away individuals. You need to find a wise man. And you'll know of his wisdom by does he profess to love and follow Jesus? Was he married to the same woman the entire time? Did he raise children? Are his children somewhat squared away? You have to factor in the various prodigal here and there, but are his kids squared away? Is his business in order? Find that guy and go to him and say, listen, I need to know what you know. Because the thing is, none of us know anything. None of us are ever going to master it. The older I get, the more I realize how little I know. And the more I realize how little I know, the more I realize how little everybody else knows. You know what I mean? And these people, we got scientists telling us there's this thing called, there's gravity, man. Don't you know? It explains everything. And it's what's gravity? Oh, we don't know. Okay, well then don't stand there and talk like you know what you're talking about. You haven't found the graviton yet, son of a gun. Whoa, see how close that came? You don't know. And what's worse is that it's like you're ashamed that you don't know. It's like, dude, there's no shame in not knowing. There's a shame in refusing to learn. There's definitely a shame in that. But dude, you don't know. I don't know. The older I get, the more clear it becomes to me that I don't know. The more, like I just said, what was it, yesterday, G.K. Chesterton, man, when a man first endeavors to speak the truth, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is that I'm a liar. That's true. But at the same time, I look at my 17-month-old son, and it's just man, he doesn't even know how to talk. I know so much more than that kid. I know so much more, and I'm not at a different level, I'm just in a different chamber. I know so much more than that guy. And that's how, that's how you have to see somebody that's in your neighborhood or goes to your church, or somebody that you have access to that you somewhat even know, like maybe you already know his name, and just go to them and be like, look, I need 20 minutes a month. I need an hour a week. I need whatever you can give me. I need to learn the disciplines. Like those hardships that you have in your marriage, guess what? Marriage is hard for everybody. I think it was G.K. Chesterton that said that. He said marriage is a lifelong battle, and something else that was really profound. Marriage is like a lifelong battle, and any man who desires to win is a fool, or something like that. But you have to learn. It's a discipline, man. Why would you not go to somebody who clearly knows how to get it done? You know what I mean? Because they're 40 years older than you are, and clearly they were married in the same way. It wasn't that he found the easiest woman in the world. It's because he learned techniques, he learned the disciplines, and he followed those, and that's how they stayed married without murdering one another. Disciplines. Archery is a discipline, and prayer is a discipline. Yes, it's easy. It's easier if you have somebody that can point you in the right direction. But ultimately, the Holy Spirit will be your discipler. The Holy Spirit will teach you the disciplines. And when it comes to prayer, and what I'm trying to do here, by the way, is encourage people to begin learning the disciplines of prayer, because there's many forms. There's what's called supplication. That's called asking for stuff. That's what supplication is. It's a form of prayer. And then there's gratefulness. Gratefulness is a form of prayer. And by the way, these are all things that you can apply the scientific method to, by the way. You can chart it. You can write down where you're at and try it for 30, 60, and 90 days, and you chart what has changed in your life since the time that you began to where you're at now. Gratefulness. Try this for 30 days. Try this form of prayer, this particular discipline. Try it for a month. Wake up in the morning and have it written down. Okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to go straight to the bathroom, take a leak, and then I'm going to go to the kitchen and I'm going to hit the on button, the coffee maker, and then I'm going to sit down and write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be a 2,000-page essay. It could just be 3 sentences. Grateful for that. I'm grateful for food, grateful for my spouse, I'm grateful for my healthy kids, I'm grateful for my job, I'm grateful for, that I have 2 arms and 2, whatever. Whatever, just 3 things. Just write them down. And believe me, the first time you do that, it's not going to make any sense. And the second day that you do it, very little sense. Third time you do it, not much sense at all. Fourth time you do it, it's like, oh, yeah, you know what? I kind of noticed yesterday that I was a little bit less edgy at work, and on and on and on and on. You do that for 30 days, and then you write down your thoughts, and you write down any changes in your behavior, and any changes in how people respond to you that you notice. Do it for 30 days, and then at the end of that 30 days, because you'll see it, then you commit to doing it for the rest of your life. And diving deeper into that discipline and picking up books written solely on that subject. And listening to the wise sayings of men from King Solomon to Richard Branson and all these other people who just talk about gratefulness as a discipline. You start reading everything, that it lets your mind start tearing off in other directions where it's like, oh, I can try this. I can add this little seasoning or this little concept to my gratefulness discipline. And it grows, and I'm telling you, there's not Well, I keep saying this, and I know that it's wrong every time I say it. It's like, dude, there's nothing like gratefulness. There's nothing like it. You can't get through this life successfully without it. That I can say for sure. But when I talk about it, it's like it's almost like I'm saying that exclusively. Like, no, if you just had this one thing, you'll be okay. It's like, no, that's not. It's that important, but it's there's other things too. Gratefulness is a discipline. Supplication, asking for stuff, you need to ask for stuff. But because of the way that most of us have been trained to pray, you need to I'm telling you, you need to put that on the shelf for a little while. Make a conscious decision to not ask for anything. Anything material, that is. Nothing material. Don't ask for money. Don't ask for, like a new house. Don't ask for, and not forever, but just long enough so that you can hear, you can see how badly you have been trained to pray. Because when you remove supplication, for most Christians, at first you'll realize, oh wow, I don't even know what to say. I don't know any other way than to go to God and just ask for money and health and jobs and blah blah blah, but cars and woman and whatever. Don't do it. Only ask for, Lord, open my ears and teach me how to listen. Teach me how to incline my ear. Teach me how to hear your voice. Teach me what it is. And when you do speak to me and I hear it, please remind me, tell me, this is my voice. And you'll find it was in you all along. Instinct, for example. Listening to your instinct. Now, your instinct can instincts can, your lust, your pride, your ego, we all have it, right? Your inclinations can mimic your instincts, the voice of God through your instincts. They can mimic that voice what was that guy's name that was always on Johnny Carson? Rich Little. Remember Rich Little? He would do impersonations and it would just be like, boy, that's bananas. If I had my eyes closed, I would think that was actually, Marv Albert or whoever it was that he was impersonating. Well, that's you have an impersonator built into your body. The voice of God goes through you, but you have built in an impersonator, and it sounds, it's bananas how close those two voices sound. Your ego and the voice of God, your instincts, right? I keep using this analogy, if you walk off on a trail into the woods and you see 1,000 yards away, right? 10 football fields away, a good distance, you see a bear. Guess what? You're going to feel like ice cold water is somehow not being poured down your spine, but being poured up it. There's going to be a chill that goes up your back, and the hairs on the back of your neck will stand up. It's going to be a very visceral experience. Even though that bear is technically, he's far enough away where, you can take appropriate measures to keep yourself safe. But your body's going to tell you, hey, see that bear? Your body's going to tell you, and it's not going to allow you to not recognize that situation. That's the voice of God in you. That's the voice of God in you, right? God put his voice in you in that example. And that's just one example. That's just one. There's thousands of those that I could rattle off. But the discipline of prayer, gratefulness is one of the disciplines of prayer. Be a disciple of that. Supplication is a discipline. It's hard. It's hard because you don't want to be. It's it even talks about it in John, I think, maybe it's First John, but he says, you ask. You ask for things and you don't know what you're asking for, and you don't get it because the reason why God doesn't give it to you is because you're asking for stuff for your own pleasure, like your own ego. I know I just totally butchered that passage. Sorry about that, but that's what he's saying. It's like, dude, you're trying to practice supplication, but man, you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong, and that's why you don't get what you get. Like, you don't know how to ask. You don't know what to ask for. And if you call out to God, and you believe that not only is there a God, but that from his perspective, you are literally the only human being on the planet. That his focus on you is that intense, where all he's doing is sitting in eternity looking at your life. I can qualify that. And I will. As I go through the Bible with my wife, like I'll start bringing some things. In fact, I'm going to start bringing some things up as I read every day. But look, it's not what you think. Is my point. It's not what you think. Like, if you go pick up a bow, and a bag of arrows, and a target, and whatever, and you start practicing archery, it's not what you think. You're going to realize things about yourself as a man or a woman, just from archery, just from practicing archery. You're going to learn breath control. And in breath control, you're going to learn, like, oh, I can control my breath. And then you start listening to the sound of your own breath, and you start realizing, like, oh, I didn't realize, you know what I mean? It opens your eyes to things. You learn muscle control. You learn focus and intent and intensity on a target. That's prayer. I'm telling, like, I cannot think of any better analogy for prayer. Like, what prayer is, what communicating with God is, than the split-second moment before you loose that arrow. There's a moment. It's a holy moment. It's the moment between when your brain tells your fingers to let go. The time that it takes for that electrical pulse to go from your brain to your fingers, that is a holy moment. Find it. I encourage you. I can't think of any better thing that I could encourage you to do to get what I'm, to really understand, like, what prayer is. It's that moment. It's a heck of a thing to describe, and there's the disciplines of prayer. It goes further. It's meditation. Right? I've said it before, like, meditation, like King David talked about it, like meditation, just laying on your bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking about your day. What did I learn today? Was God with me? How bad did I screw up? What about my kids? Are they healthy? Are they sick? Whatever. We all do it. We all do it. You just lay in your bed or sit in the chair or whatever, and you just sit there and zone out and think. You think about everything all at once. That's called meditation, and it's a discipline. You can hone it. Fasting. Let me tell you something, guys. Like, listen, when it comes to fasting, fasting is a different chamber, right? It's a different discipline of prayer. And it is something that's, most people would describe it as a higher, right? As if it were levels. It's not higher, it's harder. It's harder, and more thought has to go into preparation for it. Some of you, some people, it's not even an option. Some people can't do it because there's medical concerns. Right? But doctors will tell you, like nutritionists, like guys, and general practice doctors and these kind of people, they'll tell you, like, fasting, intermittent fasting is good. It's good for everybody. Take one day off, right? Like from, say if you take one day off and it's a weekend, right? Well, from Friday night, after you eat dinner, from Friday night don't eat all day Saturday, and then break that fast on Sunday with soft fruit. Not apples, not guavas, whatever, like a soft fruit, like oranges or something, and you'll understand why once you do it. But fasting is a discipline. People think like, oh, I'll fast for 40 days. No, you won't. No, you won't. No, you will not. People that fast for 40 days, people do it, but those people have practiced. They've done 1 day fasts, and then they did a 3-day fast, and then they really got the sack together to do a 10-day fast. And after they broke that fast, then they realized like, oh, I can go for the big one. If there's something that I truly, need to go after, I know I can do 40s. That the confidence that you have is because you know the territory. Because each one of these disciplines, it's like a land. It's like a different landscape, There's mountains, there's deserts, there's swamps, there's forests, you know what I mean? It's like a different landscape, and fasting it's treacherous. It's very difficult. And one of the first things that you learn, just like in archery, it's like one of the first things you have to learn in archery is breathing. Because the first thing that you learn when you start focusing on your breathing is how undisciplined you are in your breathing and the timing. Like if you're not paying attention to your breathing, like the timing of your breathing is going to be weird. And you really start noticing that when you start practicing archery, because it's like, oh, I need to breathe steady, in, out, like a metronome. In, stop, out, stop, in, stop, out. You know what I mean? And you begin to realize like, oh, I need to control this, and I need to add rhythm, a constant rhythm. And then you start realizing that your brain is changing. The way that you process thought is changing for the better, because I've added timing to this. And it's the same thing with fasting, man. The first thing, I don't know about you. I don't know if everybody's experienced, but the first time I fasted was the very first thing I learned was, holy cow, I think about food all the time. And I thought, well, maybe I'm only just thinking about food all the time because I'm not eating. And then I thought, well, no. I've got a refrigerator full of food, cabinets full of boxes and cans full of food. All I can think about is food. Why am I so obsessed with food? And you start realizing, like, man, I really think about food, like, all the time. I'm always thinking about food until I'm eating it. And then once I'm done eating it, I start thinking about food again. It's just like, what they say when you're a kid, when you were, 8th and 9th grade, you have to start doing sex education. Remember that when you were a kid, and like they come in and they say, listen, you kids, like we all understand, like the teenage mind thinks about this particular subject like once every 17 seconds. It's crazy. And when you're that age, like you don't know anything, like you don't know how to control it. It's crazy. That's why, like up until just like 200 years ago, or 100, well, actually still to this day, but like in Western society, like it wasn't that long ago, like people would just like, once you were, 14, 15 years old, your parents would be like, get married, dude. Why? Because the wisdom of the ages learned, like, this is not meant to be controlled. This is not meant to be controlled. The only control that you can add to it is marriage. Here, Johnny, 15-year-old Johnny, like you've got a job, you're earning, like you have a skill. Why don't you take your little girlfriend, go down to the church, get married. We'll all come down and we'll celebrate. This is gonna be wonderful. And then you can take all of that energy and put it where it belongs, into the perpetuation of the human race. Like that's why that urge is so severe. Because God's like, oh no, you will be fruitful and multiply. This was not a suggestion, right? You will be fruitful, you will multiply. You're gonna knock that out, right? You're gonna keep the human race going. This is exactly what you're gonna do. And then we made it all weird and said, oh, well, first you need to go to college. Well, now college doesn't matter. Now you need to go and get your, graduate degree done. And then, really what you need. And by the time it's like you're 30, and because you couldn't control it, you had sex with all these different weirdos. Now you've contracted herpes, or some other weird thing. Nobody wants to be with you because now you're old and gross. And you've got weird things growing on your lip. You know what I mean? We made it all weird. It's like, no, this was meant to be. I don't know why, guys. Wow, I have no idea why I just went off on that tangent. Discipline, supplication, gratefulness, right? Humility, hearing, learning how to hear, fasting. They're all different. Listening is it. If there were levels, I would say learning to listen, like listening, is the highest form. If you can listen, if you learn to listen, which I'm good at it, but I am envious of many, many men when it comes to the art of listening. Many. Remember that 50 Cent? Many men. I am envious of many men when it comes to the art of listening. I'm nowhere near where I need to be. Because this I know. Though I cannot explain it to you, this I know. That if you were to reach a certain level, if you will, of ability to learn to listen, your need to speak would cease. Your need to ask would cease because you would just listen and follow. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? My son, who cannot speak, right? He doesn't speak. He doesn't know any words. He has 2 different languages, actually 4 different languages being spoken, But primarily he has Albanian and English being spoken in his house all the time. And some French and some Italian. Because my wife speaks French and Italian as well. And so does her brother. But he doesn't know how to speak. He doesn't know how to ask me for shoes. He doesn't know how to ask me for clothes, or to change his diaper, or to feed him. He doesn't know how to ask me for any of those things. He doesn't even know that he is tired. So he doesn't even know how to ask me to lay him down, put some blankets on him, and put him down for his little nappy wappy. He doesn't know how to ask me for that, nor would it do any good, because he doesn't even know that he's tired. But I know. And I direct him. And I clothe him. And I feed him. You see what I'm saying? There's a point, if you can learn how to hear, that although you would still speak, you would still converse, because that's actually the whole point, but you would cease from asking for things, because you would just be like, I don't need to ask for anything, man. I've got everything. God says go over here, I go over there, and there are waiting my nap. And there is waiting my shoes. And there is waiting my wife. And there is waiting my house. And there is waiting my health. And there is waiting my big pile of money that I always wanted. Or whatever. Not a big pile of money, that's stupid. I'm not a prosperity guy, if you guys haven't noticed already. Disciplines. They are disciplines. And you don't need like an older man to do that. And when it came to the disciplines of prayer, I never really had that. I would just read books. Like, go pick up a book by E.M. Bounds. Echo Mike Bounds. B as in boy, as in Bravo. Bounds. Bounds. E.M. Bounds. All that dude wrote about was the art of prayer. It's it. And from a Christian perspective, he's talking about communing with the Almighty. E.M. Bounds is my discipler. Pick it up. You go get it. Go to the bookstore. Get anything. It doesn't matter. Just get anything by E.M. Bounds and start there. and practice what you read. Go pick up The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. He was a, I believe, 16th century monk. Dude, that guy had it all figured out. He lived in this monastery and he just washed dishes. And kings would go to him. Say, Brother Lawrence, man, I need you to give me the Lord's counsel on this matter that I have on my mind. And I traveled all this way and up this great mountain to come to your monastery. And Brother Lawrence would be like, dude, I just want to be alone with God right now. I just want to wash these dishes, talk to God. And he would say that to like kings. Kings would come to him. He'd just be like, dude, okay, all right. I mean, we're all Christians here. But just know that this is a huge inconvenience for me, Your Majesty. This is a huge inconvenience for me. All I want to do is pray. And the best way that I know how to pray, where I know that nobody's going to bother me, is doing the crappiest job that nobody wants to do. Nobody's going to come in the kitchen and try to do dishes. So it's the one place in this monastery where nobody's allowed to talk. It's the one place I can be completely alone because nobody wants to do the dishes. So this is my safe place. And he would get annoyed when kings and dignitaries would show up and be like, "Oh, Brother Lawrence, please, I need your counsel on this matter." All right. The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence, man. It's heavy. And it's quick, too. It's a very thin book. Very thin. Quick read. But heavy. Practice prayer. Learn the different disciplines and know where you're at. And you know what I mean? Like, if you're practicing gratefulness, it gets better. And you start learning, like, oh, God, man, I'm really crappy at gratefulness. But that's all right, because you can go to God and confess it. And then you learn this other whole new discipline of prayer called confession. The cleansing power of confession. I'm telling you, man, different discipline altogether, different area of prayer. Like, learn these things. And you go in, again, man, when you listen to these boxers, when they say these some of the deep things that, now Mike Tyson's not like the deepest of them all, but he says some, like that thing when he said, like, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. That's heavy, man. It's so true. So true. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face, man. That belongs in the Bible. King Solomon should have wrote that. That's brilliant. You go listen to these boxers and you hear what I'm saying. It's like, wow, it's like these men are men of prayer. Like this act of pugilism, it brings out this whole different dimension of prayer, evidently, because, man, these guys say things, it's like, dude, I would have never have come up with that. Anyways, I wanted to share that, and I also wanted to talk about how hilarious it was that Nancy Pelosi was told by the President of the United States, like, hey, if you want to go to Egypt and Afghanistan and Brussels, you can do that if you want, but you're not going to have the taxpayers pay for it. You're not going to take taxpayer money while we're in the middle of a government shutdown and go jaunting across the planet, having your little vacation, flying on a private jet at the taxpayer's expense. You're not going to do that. You can go. You're just going to have to pay for it yourself. Fly commercial. Now, it's funny. It's hilarious, in fact. But at the same time, it's like, this is what we need. These people are out of control. The starting salary for a new congressperson is over $170,000. That is in the top 3% of earners. That's the top 3. That is something that people have to work very hard to get to. They have to be dedicated. They have to have singleness of vision to get to. But not Congress, not government workers. No, they just vote. They just vote for a raise. Hey, what do you guys think about this vote? Let's vote for, should we have more money or should we not? Should the sheep, should the cattle of America give us more of their money for our own, bank account? Or should they not? Let's have a vote. This is the problem with the democracy. A democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what they're going to have for dinner. Oh, so Congress is voting on whether or not they should have a raise or not? Oh, I wonder how this is going to go. I wonder how this vote's going to turn out. Ooh. Let me turn on Fox News and CNN and watch as the polls come in. Ooh, I wonder how this... Whoa, boy. This is a real nail biter. I'm on the edge of my seat. Wonder how this vote's going to go. You voted yourself into the top 3% of income earners and you are a public servant? These people are out of control. Out of control. And very soon, very soon, in my opinion, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But just looking at the sequence of events, and I've told you guys this before, I can't predict the future. I cannot tell you what's going to happen. All I can tell you is what people will do when it happens. Because it's always the same. Remember what it is? Okay? Can't tell you what happens when the tsunami hits. Can't tell you what happens when the stock market crashes. Or when it's going to happen. I can't tell you when, the earthquake is going to hit Bali or whatever. All I can tell you is what the people's response to it will be in the markets. It's always the same. It's panic. I can't tell you what's going to happen. All I can tell you is that what the people will be like when it happens. They will be panicking. And the reason why Kamala Harris was so focused on making it a federal crime to lynch somebody, remember, lynching is different than murdering somebody. Lynching is not a racist act. Lynching means becoming a vigilante as a group, coming together as a group, condemning somebody for a crime with no legal proceedings, and then executing that person for that crime. That's what it means to lynch somebody. That has not happened in the United States since 1981. Some of you weren't even born yet. That was the last time a lynching happened in the United States. So why is it, when there's all these other things that there needs to be laws for, why was Kamala Harris so interested in making that particular crime a federal matter? Which, according to the Constitution, is not a federal matter. It's a state matter. That particular thing has to be deferred to the state, and she got it pushed through that now it's a federal crime to lynch somebody. Why would that be something that she would feel like she needed to be the champion of? Because those politicians can see it coming, like, oh my God, this job has a starting salary of $170,000+. We fly privately all over the world, go on these fancy vacations. We go down to Puerto Rico when the whole government shut down in the middle of winter, and we just go, hundreds of us with all these lobbyists. There are 3 lobbyists to every 1 government worker in Puerto Rico right now. What do you think is happening on the warm, sunny sands of Puerto Rico? What do you think's happening down there right now? What do you think everybody in America who's freezing their cackles off right now, what do you think they're thinking is going on down there right now? Sex, booze, food, warmth, and money. While the nation is suffering and falling apart. What do you think that's going to lead to? That's going to lead to somebody, a group of somebody's, most likely, again, I hope this doesn't happen, but it's like I can't see any other way that this is going to go. Groups of people are going to be like, all right, listen, you're clearly making $170,000 a year that you don't deserve. Guilty. You're clearly putting people in positions of power who have no idea what they're doing because they're 28 years old, never married, never had any kids, never had a real job, and yet you are putting them at the highest seat of power over in a financial committee. Clearly you people are idiots and you don't know what you're doing, and we need to make an example out of you so that in the future, when future politicians come in and we tell them, your salary is $30,000 a year. It's illegal to even talk to a lobbyist, and you will go work your normal job when you're not doing the things that you've been voted in to do. And we're going to make an example out of you people, because we can no longer count on our judges, because all of our judges are tied to Obama and Trump and Bush and Clinton, and we can't trust you. So we're going to have to reset the mechanism. That's why Kamala Harris made that. Well, that's why she was so intent, because she can see it coming too. So President Trump, God bless him, and may God protect that man. Ooh-wee. I pray the protection of the Lord God Almighty, His Son Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, the protection of God on that man. But he comes out to Pelosi and he's like, hey girl, you go fly around wherever you want, as long as you pay for it. You think this is just free money? You think you just spend as much money as you want? You jerk. You butthole. Poop man. Right? Hilarious. I love it. Anyways, I had other stuff. How much did I miss? Did I miss anything? That's the show for the week. Today is Friday. God bless you guys. The disciplines. Begin practicing the disciplines. Don't see it as levels, see it as chambers. Find a chamber, pick one, get in it. Up from the 36 chambers. Remember that? Wu-Tang. There's chambers. Pick one, get in it. Start practicing. I recommend you begin with gratefulness. Strongly. 30 days, like I said. And if you want to talk to me privately about that, hit me up on Telegram, hit me up on Twitter. If you want to support the show, which, hey, support the things you love or else they go away. Send some dough. Put some tip in the tip jar at paypal.me/archavocate. paypal.me/archavocate. For any dough that you want to throw, do it there. Thanks, you guys. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you on Monday.